here, and we're back with another rewatch review. Now we're going through the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we're still in Phase 1. I know this was supposed to be going a lot faster, but I got a few movies in, and then the entire world seemed to go crazy, so I've been slowed down a bit. But getting back to it, today we're going to talk about the original Thor movie from 2011. Directed by Kenneth Branagh, and of course starring Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston and Anthony Hopkins, Rene Russo. I mean, it's just a huge cast of great actors. Natalie Portman, Colm Fieri, Clark Gregg shows up. We get our first look at Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye. I mean, it's it's this great sweeping epic, and that's kind of where I want to start with here. This is actually the second time I've recorded this video. The first time ended up being about 20 minutes long, and I spend more time talking about how Thor has changed between this movie and the Ragnarok, and I'm not going to do that now. So we're going to put a pin in that and come back to it. What we're going to talk about is just this movie. Now, when it came out, Thor was unique in the Marvel Universe. We already had Iron Man at the time. That was a sci-fi movie in a lot of ways. And we had the Hulk, which was kind of horror Jekyll and Hyde. And we had Captain America. I think Captain America actually came out after Thor, but it was basically a war movie. So Thor was the epic fantasy. And for Thor Comics, that's exactly what it needed to be. Kenneth Branagh, who is a fabulous director as well as an actor. You look at his more recent stuff like Murder on the Orient Express, and you can see what this man can really do. And I think we get that here in Thor. We get the big sweeping epic in the sense we get these beautiful scenes of Asgard. We get this mythical realm in a way that I don't know if we continue with after this film, but he takes so much of a universe that is strong in the comics and brings in just a lot of it and locks it in and gives us this dual movie. He gives us this epic fantasy like they're running around Middle Earth, and we get this part that takes place on Earth, or Midgard as they call it, with Jane Foster and Darcy and Eric Selvig. And so you get this split on the movie, but it works really well. And what happens is you start off with the epic fantasy. You see that Thor is a warrior but not a leader, and Chris Hemsworth plays that really well. He's got the confidence and the arrogance that you need, but you also get to see Tom Hiddleston's kind of meddling, and we get introduced to Idris Elba as Heimdall. We get Sif, played by Jamie Alexander. We get the Warriors 3, including Ray Stevenson as Volstagg, Josh Dallas as Fandral, even though he only plays in this one. And we get, I'm not going to get his name right, but Tenobu Asano as Hogun. And so you get the Warriors 3, you get Sif, you get Heimdall, we get Frigga, we get, everything the basics of Asgard that you need to tell the story. We get the Frost Giants, we get Jotunheim and Midgard and Asgard, and mentions of Yggdrasil, the Tree of Life, and all of the stuff that we need to explain is all given to us. He does a great job, Branagh and the writing team do a great job of explaining that and grounding it in somewhat science in the scene between Jane and Thor on the roof of whatever that place is. Looks like a used car dealership that they took over. Anyway, they established this mythical, magical realm in the middle of this very grounded reality that the Marvel Universe is building. And they do that in a remarkably well done way. Now, what we get though is, like I said, we get Thor in the epic fantasy, and then we get him humbled and brought to Earth. And in doing so, Branagh pays homage to not only the work of Stan and Jack, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, who created the Thor comic. They didn't create Thor because Thor is a character of Norse mythology that's been around for thousands of years, as well as the majority of those characters that we see in Asgard. But they created the Marvel version of them, and they pays homage to that. I mean, even we get little nods like the Journey into Mystery line, which is where Thor first appeared, is in the movie. We get, but we also get Walter Simonson's run. And if you haven't read Walter Simonson's run on Thor, that is probably one of the best comic runs, period. Writer and artist, just phenomenal. And what he picks up what Jack and Stan had done and just keeps it going. And it is really one of the best running comics. And they pay homage to that as well, even to the point where not only does Stan get his cameo with J. Michael Straczynski, another writer who worked on Thor, but Walter gets a cameo in Asgard where they're all celebrating at the end and having that big feast. Walt Simonson's at that table, and I thought that was a really nice touch. The movie is well-paced. It's fun. Thor interacting with the humans, him drinking with Eric Selvig, all of the nods to Donald Blake. And if you don't know, when Thor was first created, he had a human guise of Donald Blake, who was a lame doctor who found a walking stick in the cave, and when he hit it on the ground, it turned into Mjolnir, and he turned into Thor. So in that, human Donald Blake became Thor. Well, in the movie, we start with Thor. He gets humbled. Well, they play it up with Donald Blake being Jane's ex-boyfriend. They make that the ID he gets, a fake ID he gets. The outfit he wears is Donald's. So they're paying homage to all those things. We get the grand epic fantasy, which is its own unique place in the Marvel Universe compared to the other films. And I think they do a remarkably fun job of it. The battle between Loki and Thor at the end on the Rainbow Bridge, Thor making the sacrifice of not only cutting off the rest of the realms, but cutting off the woman he loves, that shows a leader. And that's part of his journey. And that's what it is. It's a hero's journey is what we get in the first Thor film. He goes from being the reckless warrior to being the sensitive leader. And we even get the Destroyer. The battle with the Destroyer, I think, is fantastic. The references to that Coulson says is that one of Stark's? I don't know. He doesn't tell me anything. I mean, that just grounds it nicely in the existing universe. But at the same time, it shows that this is just a bigger level. The things that the Destroyer can do, completely shifting its body around. And I mean, that looked great. And then the scene where Thor sacrifices himself, and then Mjolnir comes to him, and he gets his power returned to him. Just really plays well. We even get, when Jane mouths the words "Oh my God" or says "Oh my God," I kind of think we all are doing that too, because bam, we've got Thor back. In a lot of ways, this is the Thor from the comics. This is the Thor I wanted to see. And in a lot of ways, it paid off the closest for me, to the comic creations. It's one of my favorites to go back and rewatch. I really like the majority of the movie. I love, like I said, I love that we get Chris Hemsworth comedy beats in his interaction with the humans, the smashing the mug, the trying to go and buy a horse, or rent a horse, like I said, out drinking with Eric Selvig. So we can see what Hemsworth could do, and we would get more of later on. But we also got the serious Thor, the warrior Thor, and to me, it's the most complete of the Thor movies. We'll get into the other ones when we get to them in the list, but it's my favorite Thor movie, and it's going to probably stay my favorite Thor movie because of how much things have changed. I loved the Thor comics that took place on Asgard. I loved delving into Norse mythology. There's still so much more that they could get into. We never got to Balder the Brave. We never got to Kolborson, who's Odin's brother. Now, we may get to him in Thor 4. I think that's going to be who... Batman. The guy that just... why is his name drawing? I'm drawing a blank on him. The Christopher Nolan's Batman. I think he's going to play Christian Bale. I think Christian Bale may play Cole, the Serpent, who releases the Hammers of Worthy, and that's how we'll get Jane Foster, and how we'll get Beta Ray Bill and stuff like that. If you ever read the Fear Itself miniseries, that would be the perfect offshoot of that. I know a lot of people are talking about the God Killer, and other people are talking about Beta Ray Bill and Silver Surfer. I think Bale's going to end up playing Cole Borson. We'll see. But and I would like that because I want to delve more into the Norse mythology. We got Hela. I don't want to get away from that yet. I think we've got at least one more movie, even though we've lost Asgard. But yeah, I still want to get into Balder. I want to get into some other stuff. I hate that we've lost the Warriors 3 already. But sticking with this film, I think Branagh did an amazing job. I think it looked like an epic fantasy. It felt like that. And then when he took us to Earth, that felt different. And then when the Warriors 3 came to Earth, we realized how different that felt. So by the time we got back to Asgard, Thor could go back to being the god. So it was a very delicate balance, and Branagh pulled it off really well. I think it was a risky move by Marvel, and I think it paid off. I think it made Hemsworth a star, and I think it introduced Thor and that whole world to people who never read Norse mythology in school. You know, we usually get the Greeks and the Romans, and that's about it. So those are my thoughts on Thor. Next up in the Phase 1 rewatch is The Avengers. So I'll be doing that one shortly. And then we'll continue on. So if you like what I'm doing here, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe, mark the alerts so you know when the next one comes up. Otherwise, I've also got a series of writing videos that I'm doing. If you're interested in learning the craft of writing, you can check those out. And I've been doing some other videos on some latest news and stuff. I've got a couple other videos I'll be posting soon, including one talking about the upcoming Black Widow film. But we'll get all that out. I hope you're all staying home and staying safe. I'm pulling with everyone that we're going to get through this quickly and with as little tragedy as possible. So please be safe and come back soon. Talk to you later.